Well, hello, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope everybody's having a great day. We're still living through the euphoria of the George Pickens move, and I'm still in a state of shock. I actually feel like I'm actually in the middle of a dream, because for the Cowboys to go out and actually do something like this is just insane. Now, for most people, it's funny because let me give you an example. There's this guy, Tom Shakes, who before George Pickens was traded, he was tweeted out that I love DK so much. Let me put it up here. I love to see this. Him and Pickens are going to bring so much energy and nastiness to that wide receiver room as long as they can stay selfless. It works, which is interesting because, you think of, DK last year about 900 some yards, and about the same for George Pickens. And at the moment when that was made, they didn't know who was going to be the quarterback, if it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, and they don't really have a quarterback. So if you loved it then why does it go through? Because then, of course, Metcalf paired with Pickens was going to be a legitimate duo that brought energy and nastiness to the wide receiver room. But paired with CeeDee Lamb, it's not going to make a difference at all. Huh? How's it not going to make a difference at all? That just, what? So you're saying that basically CeeDee Lamb's going to do what CeeDee Lamb does, and his results going to be like, say, Noah Brown or Jalen Tolbert? Is that what we're supposed to get? And don't get me started on Good Morning Football. The way they went after it, man, geez. But I tell you somebody who did go off about the trade and is definitely excited about the possibility. Now, he was on the NFL Network show, The Insiders. And Dez Bryant, the catch, no catch. My God, if we hadn't been robbed of that one, man, the catch, no catch. That was a Super Bowl team, guys. That was one of the better teams we had put together. The defense wasn't quite ready, but they ended up taking the football away. They were second in the NFL when taking the football away. But DeMarco Murray, with the season that he had, Tony Romo not having to win every game. That season, he only had to throw over 300 yards 2 games. They were balanced, and they were good. And unfortunately, we got a bad call that cost us. And to this day, 11 years later, it still hurts. But Dez Bryant was one of those guys that was also a fiery individual. And, a lot of times was misunderstood. You might remember, for example, this is how the media is when it comes to the Cowboys, because they recognize that controversy on the Cowboys definitely sells. And if something happens with the Cowboys, oh man, you go all into it and slam them for the move or the personalities and things. But I remember one game that you saw on the sidelines, and I remember Chris Collinsworth kind of going off that Dez Bryant, he's out of control and this, that, and the other, because it was seen Dez Bryant is going like this on his hands, and you can see he's animated, and Tony Romo's sitting down, he's got the playbook and stuff, you got Jason Witten over there, and everybody's thinking that Dez Bryant, he's about to beat up on somebody, start fighting and things like that. But when we got the audio of it, he's up there saying, Tony, they can't stop us, man. We the best in the league, man. We the best in the league. They can't stop us. And so that's where there's perception and then there's reality. And the reality was, yes, Dez Bryant was a diva. Yes, Dez Bryant was a fiery individual. But you got the best out of Dez. And when Dez was healthy and the team was going well, he was going well too. So somebody like Dez can definitely give you a perspective on what it is. So Dez, of course, had said, I love it. In fact, I'm going to see, it may be copywritten. This is the lovely and talented Jane Slater with the NFL Insiders with Dez Bryant. And shout out to Dez Bryant, who is beginning to get his media on. And you're beginning to see him. It used to be basically on Twitter. You'd see him tweeting all the time. But you're beginning to see Dez Bryant getting out there more and more. And I believe he's working with Jay Tuck even too. And I'd love to get more of Dez Bryant than some of these other mother humpers out there.
Oh man, James, just overcoming all of that adversity in my life, and that was part of it. Just believing in myself and just exiting out all the negativity. And then the other side of it, letting the defense know, I'm the man to watch.
All right. Well, on that note, then you're still a Cowboys guy. No matter,
Yes,
even
sir.
though you played for the Ravens in the States, you're a Cowboys guy. They just traded for George Pickens. Your thoughts on that deal? Him joining CeeDee Lamb now.
Man, I love it. That is unlike the Cowboys. And to see the Cowboys go out and get a playmaker like that says a lot about where they're trying to go this year. There's no more
Amen.
excuses. Fans, including myself, hey, we got to give Mr. Jones, Stephen Jones, Will McClay, all them guys a break. They going out there doing what they supposed to do to make this team better. They went out and got Dak a hell of a piece. George Pickens, he one of a kind. You put him with CeeDee Lamb, man, that's trouble. That's trouble. That's trouble for defenses.
What do you like about his game, Dez? And then, even some of these comparisons about, he's a young guy, he's emotional, he wants the ball. As someone who had similar criticisms about you and your emotions on the field, what's your defense of Pickens?
I love Pickens' attitude. It's for a guy like Pickens, it's easy for him to be misunderstood. For the guys who actually played the game, that know the game of football, understands exactly where Pickens is coming from. He'll playmaker. He wants the ball. When you got a guy like that with such a raw talent, you got to get him the ball. And Pittsburgh, they didn't do a great job of doing that. Matching him up with a guy like CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, with elite offense. The sky's up for him. We're gonna see this guy do damage.
Yeah, look, this could be the best quarterback that George Pickens has played with.
Without
so
a doubt.
This is going to be an interesting offense. But you talk about a guy who wants the ball.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offense to say the least. But I have to tell you that I'm getting kind of tired of all of the fake stuff. It used to be there was integrity in sports. Now everything is opinion pieces. Instead of actually reporting what's really going on, you keep getting fed a narrative and things. And unfortunately, if you're not really in tune to understanding that, the ESPNs and the FX1s and things like that are really for entertainment purposes only. You can't take what they say as legitimate news. When you hear a Shady McCoy going on, about Dak is just ass, how is that actually credible reporting of sports? And what made ESPN great for me growing up was you were seeing all the highlights of all the different sports that were going on. It came from the George Michael Sports Machine was the model where, here it is Sunday night. You're getting all the clips, the scores, and everything else without all the bullshit that's gone on with all of the shows now. And every single one of them, I've gotten to the point where I don't turn on the TV anymore. I honestly don't. It used to be, you guys used to know, I would always have the TV on and I'd have, I'd be right there behind the TV and I'd be quoting them and everything else. It's got so now you basically just go to YouTube, get the highlight clips of the shows and the trash talking, or better yet, go to Twitter and get the 1 or 2 minute clips on them. I don't know how they are making it anymore with 3 and 4 hour shows. Nobody watches all these things. Nobody watches them anymore. And maybe that's why ESPN is now Bet ESPN and have been letting go people left and right, that they're trying to evolve and change and go to YouTube. But I think people are beginning to get tired of all of the just straight up hate shows and really want to get the sports news about their team, at least legitimately. All righty, good people, I've been on my soapbox long enough. I hope you all are having a great Saturday night. Got to do my fireside chat, and then I'm going to bed. And don't forget, tomorrow is Mother's Day. Take care of Mama. Peace out.